Good evening. My name is Tanisha Burke Wormley, and I have the opportunity to introduce a special guest, which is my husband, Quentin Wormley, on our show. And today we'll be talking about patient communication. So I just want to thank you for participating in this interview.
Oh, you're very, very welcome. Very welcome.
So we're going to be talking about patient communication, and we're really going to initially tell you about our experience because we do have a son. His name is Jaleel Wormley, and he has went through so much. He is a chronic kidney disease, stage 5 baby, and he's overcome a lot of things, and it took a lot to get him here, and we were admitted to 6 hospitals for him to be here today, so we do have some experience. So what I will be doing in this series is talking about our experience first, and then I will intertwine the research that I have discovered from other hospitals in the area, and try to compare and contrast, and also give suggestions and improvements based on surveys that I get from my participants. So with all that being said, we're going to start out just talking about our experience. We are first-time parents.
Yes.
And so we are grateful for that, but it took a while for us to get to this place. Mm-hmm. Our experience was definitely a roller coaster ride, but we are thankful. And I will say, before this pregnancy, I did have a miscarriage. Mm-hmm. So the second pregnancy, which happened in 2017, I was really excited, but also nervous at the same time. And we ended up going to a local hospital, and it was JRMC, but they did some blood tests, which they normally do when you're first term pregnancy, and so they ran my blood, and they found that my thyroid was a little bit out of control, and so they initially referred us out to UAMS, and so that I could be closely followed up with an endocrinologist, because sometimes when you are pregnant, your thyroid hormones can go out of whack, and so they were just more concerned that I have a healthy pregnancy. So we end up at UMS, and so I will let my husband speak about the experience that we had initially with UMS, because we did have a good experience, and up until the 20 weeks. So you can go ahead and share.
Yeah, like my wife said, we were referred out from JRMC to UAMS, which is in Little Rock. Because of the thyroid issue, they just was taking extra precaution just to make sure that, that the thyroid wouldn't be getting out of control, or it would cause problems in the pregnancy later on. So got a chance to meet a lot of great doctors at UAMS. The staff was very friendly, very informative. Was definitely pointing us in the right direction, very encouraging, and we told our stories, and they was there to listen to us. So from that standpoint, everything was going very good. Like I said, the doctor was very good at what he does. We was starting to build a good relationship with him and everything. And as the pregnancy continued to go further, approaching the 20 week, we're doing regular testings and everything, just make sure that Tanisha's having a healthy pregnancy and that the baby is doing good throughout the process. The doctor discovered, that Jaleel had like a swollen, very massive, kidney. And when we're looking at the ultrascan, whatever, we noticed a very big, big hole there, black hole there.
And I did bring some pictures, so
right.
As you can tell, there's a big
right
black
there.
hole.
Yep.
And it's just showing that the kidneys are distended because the fluid is just stuck in the kidneys. And so that's causing cysts, that's causing damage.
Yep.
And so.
Yeah, I mean, and, we're looking at, the x-rays and everything. And, with, if this is your first pregnancy, you don't really know what to look for. You just hoping for the best. And the doctor come back into the room and basically told us, pointing out the large swollen area right there in the picture, and he informed us that was basically the baby's kidney swollen, not releasing amniotic fluid. There was an obstruction there, which we later learned that's called lower urinary tract obstruction, LUTU. So, once he informed us and told us about that, we immediately got concerned. Our communication changed.
Yeah.
The talk became different. Went from being very positive, very happy, optimistic to, oh, wow, like, what is this? And as he went further to explain, all of the things that, can take place with this, we got very concerned. My wife, who is very, for the most part, a very positive, optimistic, upbeat type of person, doesn't have a problem with communicating at all. She was lost for words. And like she said earlier in the video, this is, our second pregnancy. We lost our first child through a miscarriage. So we got this far with our second child, and it's like, a very scary moment. She was lost for words, and she was just kind of froze in time.
Because of the information that it gave us for our options. Because at first, with the miscarriage that we had previously, they said that can happen spontaneous, and it's nothing concerning the mother's health. Sometimes you just have spontaneous miscarriage, and at that point, I lost the baby at 8 weeks, and so it wasn't as concerning. And by us coming to after the first trimester, you kind of breathe a little bit because things are looking better and better each day. The ultrasounds are looking reassuring, and so you don't really expect this news, so it kind of hit us off guard. And to say the least, our options were limited at this point. As my husband said, there was obstruction, and there was, for one, when there's obstruction with the urinary tract system, which involves the kidneys, the bladder, the ureters, and you have all this functionality to empty the fluid out the system, and also the fluid is used as a cushion for the baby, as well as helping build the lungs. And so at that point, when Jaleel was having complications in my womb, his lungs were premature, underdeveloped, and so at that point, our experience was different because the doctor basically said that I can terminate the baby.
You could go through the full term and have us, the baby would have a chance to live after, he's delivered, or you would have a stillborn. So, or, those are the three options, the three things he came out and first told us.
Because he wasn't as experienced with this type of situation.
And that's the thing, and I really appreciate his communication in the fact that he was able to articulate and tell us that, hey, we're not fully experienced with something like this. We don't have the staff that can take care of a situation like this. We just
perform like fetal surgery.
Right. So, that was him being transparent with us, communicating that, hey, we don't really know what to do for you guys. We don't have the tools to do the necessary work here at UAMS. So, my wife is in a state of shock. She's not saying anything. And I am listening to the doctor, and I'm getting upset. If I can be honest with you, I'm getting upset because this is my child who is, at this stage where something is bad, something's going on. And we've already lost a child with miscarriage. And we've gotten this far, and now it seems like it's about to be taken away from us. Again. Mm-hmm. So I'm getting upset, and I'm getting upset with the information, even though he is being honest, being transparent.
Not giving us false hope.
But at the same time, I'm getting upset because you're the bearer of bad news. Mm-hmm. So as I'm listening to him, and I'm just taking in what he's saying, a question come in my mind, and that is, is there anything else that you can do for us? Can you refer us out to somewhere? Do you know of any doctors that you can refer us to who specialize in helping us in this situation? And he thought about it for a minute, and he came with that fourth option, and that fourth option was you could either go to Houston. They specialize in fetal procedures like this. You can go to Ohio, Cincinnati. You could go to Boston and Philadelphia. Yes, thank you. So those were the four options. And as I'm listening to him, I'm looking at my wife, and she's still in the state of shock. And I'm trying to be strong, and I'm trying to communicate with this doctor here because we need answers. Mm-hmm. We need for him to really think of
situation, life and threatening to the child more so than me.
Right. So I'm like, you got to tell us something, and he did. And once he gave us those four options about where we could go, there was a glimmer of hope. Mm-hmm. And Texas is close to Arkansas. We're right next to Texas. Cincinnati is about 9 hours away. Philadelphia is a little further, and then Boston is really far out there. My wife is from Ohio, Columbus. We have family in Ohio, Columbus. So off top, Ohio seemed like the choice. Without us even calling there, we both felt in our spirit that
we can sense it.
That Ohio was going to be the place that we need to go, and we left. Once he gave us all those options, I thanked him. He walked us out, and he said that he was going to get in contact with those doctors, send some necessary paperwork over to them.
Yeah, and that's what I do want to interject.
Okay.
Because the nurses did an adamant job of making sure that they sent the ultrasound information over to all the hospitals that they referred us out to. So the next day we were able to contact those hospitals and see what they thought about the intervention or whether it was necessary.
Right.
To intervene.
And like my wife said, the next day came, of course, we were very hurt. We came back home hurt, saddened, concerned. Mm-hmm. Which is natural. Which is a natural reaction based on our history. But we woke up, and the next day, wife, I got to give her, kudos, because she snapped out of sorrow and anger, and she immediately got on top of it. She was very adamant about making those calls, communicating with those doctors. She called all of those referral places that he referred us to, and she was talking to all of them, getting all of the details, writing everything down, and really telling our story. And she had the best conversation with Cincinnati.
Because the ones that we were referred to, Texas being very close and convenient, they wanted to help, but they felt that it was too late to intervene at that point. And then with Philadelphia, it was an insurance issue because we would be out of network, and so they weren't willing to accommodate with that situation. And then Boston, I think they were on the list, but it was some technicality with the paperwork. I think they didn't really receive enough to help with this type of situation. And so when I talked to the coordinator, the nurse coordinator, Mel Minguez, which I remember to this day, she actually was very helpful, and she talked to all the specialty doctors, and they were saying that if we wanted to come down there, she can make arrangements and we can talk and have a care conference and go from there and see what our options are at that point. And as far as insurance goes, we'll deal with the logistics later, which I appreciated because that just shows that they were more concerned about our pregnancy than how are you going to pay.
Yes.
So I was just truly grateful in that situation, and she got back with me very soon to schedule. Probably within a week, we were out of here. We left. My husband drove, made the drive. It was how long?
9 hours.
9 hours. And at that point, we made it up there for a few days, and it was history from there. So the next episode, we'll go in more detail about our experience in Cincinnati, because there's a lot to digest. But I do want to recap and say that we do thank UAMS wholeheartedly because they did make an effort on every level that they could until it became more specialty related. And so I do want to say that we learned a lot. We were thankful, like my husband communicated, for the honesty and transparency, because they did go thorough and ask about our health history. And just before we even found out this news, they wanted to know the mother and father history and grandparent history, just to make sure that they didn't miss anything before this type of situation occurred. And for the doctor to be very, very, very direct and not sugarcoat things helped us to cope and not get hit off guard. But I am thankful for my husband's initiation, because at that point, if he did not ask that question of, is there any specialty referrals for this type of situation, I think we would have walked out the door very, very defeated. And so I just appreciate my husband for being willing to ask those key questions, because when you're in a situation like this, particularly when you're in a high-risk pregnancy, sometimes your questions are not answered. And so for him to be able to bounce back and ask a specific question so that we could get more resolutions was really awesome from a patient-provider communication. And I'm hoping that eventually UAMS can get to the place where they can have the capability to aid in a situation like this, not just for our situation, but just for mothers and fathers who are expecting and they may have a child with complex care. And so I think it would be very helpful in this type of situation. And I even talked to them when we came back to have a fetal care center or a fetal medicine center that is in close contact with the Little Rock Children's Hospital or Arkansas Children's. And that way the services can be administered while the mother is carrying the child, whether it be fetal surgery or whether it be just intervention to help the child while they're in utero. And then at the moment that the child comes into the world, they can immediately be transferred to the NICU at Children's. And so I'm hoping that this experience and this information that we send you will be motivation to enhance the patient-provider communication that needs to happen for parents like us. So
yes.
I thank you so much for your time, Quentin Wormley. This has been a great episode, and we'll continue on with our experience. As I told you before, we have been admitted to 6 hospitals, and so I want to break this down so that it doesn't get too much in one episode.